Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would film a fun little video that shows some of the behind the scene work that I did on the Backsplash video. Now, this isn't going to show actual behind the scenes. This is me explaining to you some of the process that I did to actually figure out how I did that project. So if you're watching this video, then you've probably watched my DIY backsplash that I did in my bathroom, or you've watched my bathroom makeover, and you saw that I made with drywall mud, some wallpaper, paint, and grout, well, caulking. You saw that I made this fully believable, renter-friendly backsplash, and it looks really, really great. But I don't want you to watch that and just think, oh, you just tried out all these things and they just worked and you're lucky, or you just have a magical touch. That's not true, actually. The truth is that I tested everything out and did tons of R&D for this project specifically. Usually I don't do that, but for this one I did a lot of R&D, and I did an entire mini prototype that I want to walk you through, because you'll see how many different things I tested and what they turned out to look like. So the first thing that I wanted to test was obviously whether or not this removable wallpaper hack that I did would be able to support the weight of the tiles. That was really important to me. I wasn't sure if it would just like pull right off. I knew that it worked just if I was putting the wallpaper up, but I didn't know with all the weight on it. So that was the first step that I did, and this is a piece that I already pulled back. You can see it does pull up really, really easily, leaves no residue, but I knew that already. Like I mentioned, the more important part was, will it hold the weight? And it does. And actually it does in the bathroom where it's this huge display. So there's no worry with that. But that was really the first thing I wanted to tell. Also, I do want to mention this whole thing is in my bathroom, and that means there's moisture. So that was why I didn't want to do this as an entire maybe like board and then screw in the board into the backsplash area. That was one of the things I considered, or command strip it up. I think that would be something that would work as well, but I just didn't want moisture to get trapped behind that. And that's why I wanted to go with the wallpaper option, which I think is a pretty good one. So after I figured out that the wallpaper could go up, the next thing was around the tile design and the shape. I wanted to know, is it even possible for me to get super uniform shaped tiles? Like, they need to be proper rectangles that look similar to one another, more or less. And that is where I did this whole step of actually making these 3D and applying the vinyl tape. Now for this, I did actually apply strips of vinyl tape across all 3 tiles. And when I was removing it, I realized that it was not working out very well. That is why when I did the actual tutorial, I showed only doing 1 tile at a time horizontally. And the other thing I really realized was that when you're pulling up the strips of tape, this tape gets heavy and will start to sag. And that looks bad. And so you can actually see here, the strips are kind of like sagged down here. But yeah, I just didn't like, you can kind of see that arching that happens here. I didn't think that that looked very realistic. Now, as I'm looking at this, I also realized that I tested 2 different types of grout tape. So 2 different types of thickness of grout tape. So I have this one, which is thicker. I think it was like 1/8. And I have this one, which is much thinner, which is 1/16. And I tried both of them, and I ended up going with the thicker one just because I thought that it led to a more uniform tile. Now, would I for sure do that going forward? Now I'm looking at it, and now that I see the methods that I ended up doing for smoothing this all out, maybe I would do the thinner one for a sleeker design. You can do either. Either would work. I just thought that pulling up the tape and getting a smoother finish was a little bit easier with the thicker tape, but it doesn't look as refined in my opinion. But I did do that test, and I went with this just for ease because I just didn't want to land myself in a big mess. But after I had these all done, I let them dry and I started painting them. And actually, if you can believe it, with this board, I have painted it over and over and over. All these tiles I think I've painted maybe 3 times with different types of paint and different styles. So I first tried using a dollar store paint. So this is just a cheap dollar store paint, $1.25 or whatever per container. And that's what you see in these tiles down here. And this one, I think, too. What I found is that they just didn't have enough body to them. They didn't have enough vibrance either. They ended up looking a bit chalky almost. And that's why I ended up buying the paint pot samples from Home Depot, the enamel paint, because they have so much more body, they have more interest to it, they blended better, and the color just popped a lot more. So I thought that that's looked better, and that's what I have up in these tiles here. I'm pretty confident that like that type of enamel, thicker paint, the glossier stuff, is better. So obviously, once I have painted all of these tiles, the next thing I needed to figure out was, what do I do about the grout lines? And my initial plan was actually just to paint them. And I tried many different colors of paint. I tried white paint, I tried gray paint, I tried beige paint, light gray, dark gray. I tried all these different variations over and over and over, with taping around the edges, without taping around the edges. And you can see I left some of them in. So these ones still have paint. This is kind of the beigey color I did. Behind here you can see I still have some of the light gray that I tried. But I tried many and then I just painted over them and painted over them. And some of them here are obviously left behind. I just couldn't quite figure out what would go perfectly, if that makes sense. So after I tried paint in the grout lines, I just didn't think it was giving craft to me. I just didn't really like exactly how it was looking. I then decided that I would try actual grout. So I have some tile grout that's just kicking around, and I decided I would try it in gray. So that's what I have here. This is actually the grout that I tried on my kitchen tiles. And what I found here is that the cast, so before the grout step, I obviously varnished all of these and that went well, but I waited for that to dry. Then I went in and actually tried real tile grout. And I tried that down here. And what I found is that, you know how grout has a little bit of a cast? You might or might not know that, but as you're wiping away grout, it tends to leave a little bit of a cast on the surrounding tiles. Well, for this, the cast just wouldn't go away. It just like got stuck to the top coat. And I also just thought it looked a little bit too rough. Like maybe I couldn't wipe it smooth enough, considering I had to be gentle with the material, and I just didn't really like it. So I tried the gray grout here. I'm not sure if I tried a white grout. Maybe I didn't, but I definitely tried the gray grout, and I just didn't like the result. I was like, this is a non-starter. If this is my only option, then I'm gonna have to use the paint. I don't really like the look of paint. And then I got a final idea that I thought was very, very smart in my opinion, which is to use caulking in the grout lines and to get a really, really smooth finish with that. And so that is what I tried. And I tried it with white caulking here. And what you can see is that it just left such a smooth design. Now I tried it with taping around all the edges and without taping all the edges. And I found that without taping, it just created so much more mess. So I definitely decided, okay, you gotta tape all the edges and that's how you're gonna get the smooth finish. And in the end, that was when I was like, this project is going to turn out beautifully. It's going to look like real tiles. And I had to just cross my fingers and say, okay, I'm gonna try this on the big wall. But I have never really done an entire R&D board. Like this is a full-on prototype, even from, making sure it would stay up to making sure I could even peel off some of these tiles like this. I could see what would happen when I started to pull it off is that these tiles would just start crumbling away, which was my theory of what would happen anyway. But other than that, it's like super sturdy, but yet easy to remove. It looks like real tile. It's proper, it's a DIY. Some people were wondering how much this costs. I mean, you could do one coat of paint, like one paint pot of paint, and in that case, it's the cost of really the wallpaper, the paint, the top coat. You just need a tiny, tiny bottle of it, and the caulking. It's really not that expensive compared to how much tiles would typically cost, in my opinion, and the drywall mud. But it depends. If you're in the US, I mean, everything's cheaper in the US. If you're in Canada, a little bit more expensive. Maybe I spent $100 on it, but what are you gonna do? I have real tiles in my bathroom now, so I like it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is so random and off the cuff, but I just decided, why not share the behind the scenes? And since this is something I don't usually do, I might as well share it as something that I did do. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. I hope you have a great day.